So before I go into this episode, I just wanted to say that if you haven't considered already, please do consider sharing or subscribing to the podcast. The more we can spread the word, if you like, about people pleasing, the more it can reach those people who need it. And a lot of the time, you might relate to this a lot, and I did back in the day, but a lot of the time people don't know that what they're doing or how they're feeling and thinking is related to people pleasing. So it might not be a term that they actually Google. So the more you can share and the more you can subscribe or tell people about the podcast, the more we can let people know that people pleasing isn't just who you are. And, we can educate, if you like, around the unhelpful patterns that we can get stuck in, and for them to know that they're not alone and that change really is possible. So thank you if you already have subscribed and shared. I really, really appreciate it. Now, getting on to today's episode, this one has been prompted by something that happened recently. And I wanted to, use what happened to me recently as the subject of the episode. So let me ask you this. Have you ever been scrolling social media, maybe Instagram, Facebook, whatever, and come across a post that just doesn't sit right with you? If you've got your own business, maybe it's someone in your field saying something that feels off or that isn't right. Or if you don't have your own business, it might be an influencer or someone you follow, or even an old Facebook friend sharing an opinion that triggers a strong reaction in you. You feel it in your body and you feel like you want to respond. So maybe you type something out and then delete it. And then you type it again to make sure it sounds better and it doesn't have the wrong tone to it. Maybe you even ask ChatGPT to help you word it carefully and check with ChatGPT that it sounds okay. You can feel the adrenaline, maybe your heart's racing. And in the end, you don't post anything. It just feels safer to stay quiet and easier not to have any form of potential conflict. But then afterwards, there can be a bit of a sting left, if you like, a realization that you've missed an opportunity to stand up for what you believe in. Maybe even a sense of feeling like you've let yourself down. Or if you're anything like I used to be, it might not have even crossed your mind that you could post something to disagree. It might not have even crossed your mind that you're allowed to disagree out loud. So you might not have even started writing anything. The idea of challenging someone, especially publicly, might not have even registered as an option because it didn't feel like it was an option. So today's episode is about that very moment and a recent experience that shows, I suppose, the real grounded impact therapy can have on us. Not just on how we think and feel, but how we show up in our lives and or business. This episode is about what can shift when you move from being a people pleaser, someone who's learned to stay silent, keep the peace, avoid conflict at all costs, and keep others happy at your own expense all the time, to someone who expresses themselves from a place of groundedness, clarity, calm, and alignment with your values. And this isn't just about doing that in a business way. This is about that familiar internal tension so many women in life and business can face when they're asking themselves, do I say something? Will they think I'm being difficult? What if they misunderstand or judge me? Am I allowed to speak up when something doesn't feel right? Do I need to justify it? Do I need to get some evidence first and so I can back up what I'm saying? And a whole host, I imagine, of other thoughts and feelings. So that's what I want to talk about, is that can go on for us and what can be made possible when you do work through those difficulties in therapy or coaching or mentoring. So the situation was, I was on a Facebook group for CBT therapists, and I saw a post where basically someone had posted a pretty sweeping statement about a fellow therapist, and they didn't name the therapist, and they themselves were anonymous. I then saw another anonymous poster comment with a similar sweeping statement. So the first poster essentially was saying that therapists who work with insurers must not have stable and established businesses. And another was saying that therapists who also advertise as coaches or like business mentors do this because and I think this is a direct quote, I hope I've got this right, do this because it smacks of not having enough clients. So old me, anxious people pleaser version, would have read that, felt uncomfortable, probably muttered some swear words under my breath, and maybe vented privately to a friend or sent a screenshot to someone. I wouldn't have thought of responding, just wouldn't have entered my head. And I know from the therapy, coaching and mentoring I do, particularly around business visibility, that it's not uncommon to see someone from your sort of field or line of work say something you disagree with, or that goes against what you believe in or your approach or values, and to feel like it's easier not to say anything. Because you can be worried about some form of backlash or conflict, or having a bad review, or being seen as difficult, or too sensitive, too opinionated, overstepping, all sorts of things. And so it's not uncommon for the overthinking spiral to come in and cause you to doubt yourself, doubt how you're actually even feeling about it, or second guess what you thought was right, feeling unsure of yourself, like whether you have the right to say anything and whether what you would want to say is right in the first place. You start doubting yourself completely. But when I saw this Facebook post, comments and everything going on, I felt really activated, because I've had my practice for 8 years and I still work with insurers for all sorts of different reasons. And I do mentor and coach other therapists and women in business. So it's not just therapy I provide anymore. I offer other services. And I know that's not because I don't get enough therapy clients, but it's because I love supporting women and working through the psychological stuff that holds them back from promoting, what they're passionate about. I love being able to help people move forward with that and start showing up without cringe and more with confidence and stuff. It's fires me up. I love it. So I knew why I was getting activated, because obviously you can see that I felt called out myself with that. And I literally was the evidence that their comments weren't just factually shaky. It was also unhelpful, unkind to whoever they were referring to, and to others that were reading it, like myself. And it wasn't me, by the way, because they'd made reference to the rate that the other therapist was charging. That's something that riled them up as well, I think. And I knew that didn't match mine, so it wasn't about me. Just in case you're wondering. And also this riled me up because it touched something much deeper. It did touch my values, something deeper as therapists. Whilst I appreciate we aren't perfect and we shouldn't try to be because we're human, it felt like these posters and commenters, they should know better. It felt like, we should aim to do better as therapists. Not only should we be kind and compassionate and try and practice what we preach, like I say, it's not about being perfect, but as a profession, we're meant to consider and value nuance. We are meant to, and we should have, again, even with these terms, should, must, I'm acknowledging all the time that this is my sort of formation of my opinion as well, that we should have the insight to acknowledge how our own stuff can influence our thoughts and judgments and feelings, especially CBT therapists. A lot of what CBT is about is recognising our thoughts aren't facts and placing them in the true context from which they're being created and they emerge, like our past experiences, our preconceived ideas and where they've come from, all of that, and challenging our assumptions, acknowledging our assumptions and challenging them. And that doesn't mean we invalidate how we feel. It just means that we express how we feel, knowing that those thoughts within those feelings aren't necessarily factually correct, and where all that's coming from. And here was a CBT therapist being intentionally or not, being unkind in their comments, demonstrating how it's so easy to fall into like binary thinking, black and white fixed ideas or subtle judgments, or not so subtle. And like I say, even as I'm saying this, I'm constantly making reference in my own mind of what I'm basing my judgment of the anonymous poster on. I'm acknowledging that how I'm feeling about it was like, and how I was activated by it was because obviously like it resonated with me what they were saying this about this person that they were describing sounded similar to me. And all the time I'm checking in with what actual evidence like backs up what I'm saying here and what I was thinking and what I was feeling at the time. And that's the thing, like I say, it's not about being perfect and always responding instead of reacting. It's just about allowing that space to consider and getting curious about our reactions. So anyway, I responded. I actually responded. Not from a place of defensiveness or attack or wanting to prove a point, but from a place of grounded, compassionate authority. And I didn't go anonymous with it. And the gist of what I said, because I've not got it in front of me, but it was something along the lines of, pointing out there are many reasons someone might choose to work for or with insurers. And doing so doesn't automatically mean that their business isn't stable or established. That decision might reflect accessibility, flexibility, personal circumstances of the client, not just or not even, I'm trying to remember, not a lack of confidence or credibility. And then I said, as therapists, I think it's so important we pause and reflect on the interpretations and the assumptions we make about fellow professionals' businesses. We, more than most, understand how much nuance can sit behind someone's choices. I remember that bit because I had that wrote down for me just in case I forgot. And for me, I was like, wow, go me. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe I just done that. It was like a wow moment for me, because me of a few years back, as I've said, would definitely not have done that. It was a reflection of how I had reclaimed that voice that had been like silenced and that I'd shrunk down, that I'd quietened because I didn't want to be too much. And it just reflects how far I've come from where I was. And don't get me wrong, I did feel the adrenaline when I posted my comment. But back in the day, I'd be all shaky, feel sick if it had even entered my mind to speak up about something, which it rarely did. So I wanted to share it because it's just an absolute reflection of how we all, even therapists, can fall into the trap of making assumptions about people based on what we see and stuff. But also, importantly, how addressing the root cause of what's keeping your voice quiet, what's keeping you from speaking up, addressing the root cause of self-suppression and self-doubt and second guessing. When you address that, it can result in such a liberating difference. Yet it's so common to remain silent, either stuck in fear or avoidance of confrontation or following those internalized rules that we've been given from good girl conditioning and all those other factors. And maybe you can relate to this next bit, regards like what you would have done or not done if faced with something that you wanted to speak up on. Maybe you would have questioned yourself, like, am I being too much, too dramatic? Am I being too sensitive for this to make me feel this way? Or maybe you'd be worried about upsetting someone or doubting, have I got the wrong end of the stick here? Am I reading it wrong? Maybe I need to seek reassurance from someone else, make sure I'm not just reading it wrong. Would you have felt the need to make sure everyone liked you afterwards? Would you have softened it? Maybe put some emojis in? Maybe if you did comment, you might have gone back later and deleted it out of panic. Or maybe past me, you didn't think speaking up, it didn't feel like an option. That wasn't you. And I suppose that's the thing, it's about getting curious. It's not about criticizing what you would have done or wouldn't do or what you've done or what you've not done. It's about getting curious about what that tells you, getting curious about what does or doesn't feel like something you could do. Who told you that, what you could or couldn't do or were capable of? Like, who labelled you as shy or as someone who shouldn't speak up about stuff? Where did you learn what was or wasn't you? Do you remember times when you've spoken up in the past? Maybe you've been passionate about something or expressed a different view or opinion to someone else. What about when you were little? Do you remember that? How did people respond to that? How did you feel doing that? Did it feel safe doing that? Were you mocked? Were you criticised? Were you rejected? Sometimes our suppression of ourselves, our shrinking down and trying our best to be liked at all times and not ruffle feathers or share how we feel, it's our protection. So notice that and perhaps ask with curiosity, not criticism, what is it trying to protect me from? And how much might it be holding me back in other ways or impacting me in other ways? And if you've listened to this and thought, oh, I could never post that reply, or I wish I could speak up like that, I want you to know you can. It makes sense that you feel like you can't right now. And I'm not saying just push through despite your nervous system screaming at you not to. But honestly, this is why I am so bloody passionate and love working with women in life and in business. Because you weren't born suppressing yourself. You were born expressing yourself, how you felt, what felt like big emotions, what you needed, what you wanted, what you thought. You've learned to suppress yourself. And you can learn that it's safe enough now to start expressing yourself. I certainly didn't just start feeling okay saying what I thought. And I didn't go the other way where I started saying everything I thought, without any consideration. It's a process and you can follow that process too. That's why I developed my 6-step method to encompass all of my 25 years studying psychology, neuroscience, attachment and trauma, along with my lived experience and the 15 years professional experience in mental health field. It starts with understanding the root of what's holding you back, where these patterns of people-pleasing or self-suppression come from, and noticing all the ways these patterns show up, the subtle and the not so subtle ways in your thoughts, in how you think, in your beliefs, in your behaviors, what you do or don't do, in how you feel emotionally and physically, and starting to change those responses in a way that works with your nervous system, not against it, using proven techniques and strategies individual to you, and letting go of the internalized rules that hold you back, and owning your voice, your values, your needs and your wants, and cultivating self-acceptance, self-trust, self-belief and confidence, and keeping going using the stuff you learn about yourself, the stuff that works for you, the tools, the techniques, the strategies, just keeping going, embracing that authentic confidence, embracing you. And that's a summary, if you like, of the method and the sort of phases that I use and I work through with my mentoring and coaching clients, those women in business who feel like something's holding them back from truly being like visible and promoting their business and being seen. Those that want to be themselves in business and speak up and express a differing view to like someone else, and it not feeling like you're about to like walk into a fight or something. And when you do start communicating your views or speaking up for what you believe in, owning your voice and expertise, it's not about becoming confrontational. It's about becoming intentional and clear and being confident about what matters to you. It's about knowing as well, because if you're a people pleaser, we need to know what we actually believe in, because sometimes it's under so many layers of what people have told us we should believe in and how we should and shouldn't show up in the world, that we don't even know what's underneath there, like who we really are sometimes. And that's the same Like I say, that method, that phase method is what I hold in mind with therapy clients as well. Within all that as well, it's about recognizing that people won't always agree, and we're not trying to always like convince people of our opinion and control what they think or feel. It's about recognizing that people won't or can't always agree with us, and reaching a stage where that actually feels okay. It doesn't feel like a threat to us. And we don't feel like we have to keep convincing them or justifying or explaining our position. It's all about honouring and trusting yourself and your voice, even when it shakes, and knowing that you can give yourself permission to speak up respectfully and with boundaries. It's about knowing and expressing what's true to you. And I'm saying this and I'm like smiling because I know how liberating, like genuinely liberating it feels to be at that stage. So let's do a little reflection. Where are you holding back your voice right now? What situations do you find it hard to express how you really feel or what you really think? Are there certain people or places you notice that you struggle with that more? Get curious about it. Where do you default to keeping the peace or biting your tongue instead of standing up in your truth? How would things be different if you could speak up without feeling sick in your stomach or shaky about confrontation? Like, what would you want to express or say that you haven't already? I'm saying to reflect on these things with curiosity, not criticism, because they give you so much information as to, what self-suppression or keeping quiet is actually trying to protect you from. And to start changing things, you don't even have to start speaking up. And you definitely don't have to go from silence to shouting, one extreme to the other. If you felt able, you could start with one brave comment or liking something that stands in your values, that has the potential to be controversial or to be different to other people. It could be that you start with one honest sentence in an email or one truth spoken kindly but firmly to someone you trust. Literally in everyday situations, like saying to your partner, when you do X, it makes me feel Y. Like when you say that you'll be home in an hour and you're home in 3, it makes me feel like you're not considering me, like you're being disrespectful, or however it makes you feel. And then you could add on, I'd really rather you tell me if it's going to be longer than an hour, or just tell me that if you don't know how long you're going to be. It might be in a work meeting, you could say something like, I've thought about this process and I'd rather we did XYZ. Or with your friends, it could be, I'd really like us to meet at a quieter place or a louder place, or at someone's house instead of going out, or vice versa. Just helping your brain, if you like, and your body realise that you are allowed to have feelings and thoughts that are different to others and not have something bad happen afterwards. Trying to weaken that negative association that's there currently. You're allowed to challenge unhelpful narratives. And you're allowed to speak up when something doesn't sit right with you, even when someone else doesn't get it, and you don't have to over-explain and justify. And likewise, just to add another layer, like I like to do, knowing that you can choose whether to speak up or not. So knowing that it is a choice when to speak up and when not to. That is your choice. You have autonomy, you're allowed to speak up or not. And just knowing, like being able to tune into yourself and the environment, how safe it actually is as to whether or not you're going to choose to speak up or not. There's something so powerful about knowing that you get to control that. You get to control when you choose to speak up versus not. Thank you so much for listening to this. It was a little bit longer than I had expected to talk about it, but as always, my mind just started going to other different layers and things and connections. But if this did resonate with you, please do share it with someone who might need to hear it as well. And if you're working on your own journey from people pleasing to empowered expression, head over to my website. You can find more resources there, or look through the podcast at other episodes. I'm trying to build up my YouTube channel again. Let me know, as always, if there's anything you want me to cover. And until next time, I will see you soon.